Everybody, you are watching the Now Morning Show right here on TTT, also on Talk City 91.1 FM, and of course streaming live on Facebook at TTT Live Online. For those of you who are watching us on Facebook, we want to know where you are watching from, so you could always in the comment section tell us where you're watching from. Some people are watching from as far as different places in Africa and even in Japan. So we're just a little bit curious. We want to know where you're watching us from this morning. All right, so on topic with World Mental Health Day, which is today, the 10th of October, we are speaking with individuals on that topic. And from the GROW group here, we are going to find out what they do in Trinidad and Tobago as pertains to World Mental Health Day. And with me this morning is Christine Glasgow, who is the board member of GROW TNT. With me as well is Bishop Don Hamilton. Now, I understand, good morning and welcome.
Good morning.
I understand that you have a talk coming up this weekend.
We do. GROW, the organization in GROW this year in Trinidad and Tobago, we head into South. Usually we have our talks or seminars, sensitization talks in the North. But this year we are in San Fernando. We are dealing with trauma. We're dealing with how you can live in harmony in your environment, given all that is happening in our country.
You know, I think it's really important that we continually and consistently have this talk on mental health, because we're in a country, unfortunately, that there's still a lot of stigma surrounding it.
There is.
There's still a lot of stigma surrounding the conversation.
There is.
You know, so what is GROW doing in regards to that conversation?
Well, going on the stigma situation, I have found that the stigmatization of mental illness and mental issues is not just in Trinidad, but all over the world. You would find people, there's a sort of hush-hush situation when you come to talk about mental health. However, in Trinidad and Tobago, we have this movement where we do weekly support group meetings, where we have sensitization sessions, where we try to help people understand that you can be ill with a physical illness and you can be ill with a mental illness. So this year, we are dealing with trauma, as I said before, because you have people who would have experienced all kinds of trauma. You would have had rape situations, murders in your family, theft in your home, you would have been held up with a gun, you would have had maybe terminal illnesses, as the case may be, and people are not coping well, that we have found. So we are going out there to deal with these kinds of situations.
What would you say is the common thread with the people you have interacted with in regards to trauma specifically?
I think one of the things we found is that people think that people are not sensitive to their issues because people are so busy, people are doing so many things. They think that if you have a situation and you're talking about it, it's like, oh, you're still on that thread, you're still dealing with that, get over that now. So we found that people you don't have the kind of support that you need out there. Maybe within your family you do, but out in the community, people tend to think, here, what, let's get to the next issue. Stop talking about this.
And as the opposite of what we need to do.
That's the opposite of what we need to do.
Bishop, as you know, someone in your position, you would converse with a lot of people. People may come and confide in you as well. When the topic of mental health comes up, how do you deal with it?
Well, first of all, I want to say that we try to broaden our appreciation of the human condition. It is not just spiritual, mental, physical. And so we have a tendency of sometimes moralizing right, wrong, the human condition. And so we are trying to push very, very hard and to broaden our perspective to say, no, you know what? All of us, at some point in time, we're exposed to some kind of stressor, some kind of trauma, and we need to embrace people and help them work through as you walk with them.
How do you help the people?
Well, first of all, we need to identify what is the source of the problem or the challenge. Because if you misdiagnose that, then your intervention would also be off. So if you could identify specifically what is the issue, we can then build an intervention around the diagnosis. And having done that, we then need to provide the necessary support groups and professional intervention to help people work through. Sometimes you have a case of a medical intervention where there is need for medicine and so on. Sometimes it's a social intervention where you need to provide the social network. Sometimes it's psychological, so you have to provide the counseling support system, you see, so that there are various types of intervention based on how you diagnose what is the presenting issue.
I just want a little information on, well, your own personal experience with the statistics. Have you found that more men or more women have come to you to speak about their mental health?
Of course, more women.
Women.
Because men tend to internalize the issues and think that it might be not macho to come and say, well, I have a problem and I need help. So generally in all our groups, we have more women coming, even for counseling, you have more women. Studies have shown that more women access help for mental issues.
And I think that is part of the challenge for men and their mental health. For example, we were working with this widow effect. So two people live together for years, one passes on.
Right.
And it is showing that the woman is outliving the man in the case of that.
Right.
And so when they did the analysis, they discovered that women are more relational. They talk, and they share what they're going through. For the man, hey, how are you going? Are you all right? I cool.
Right.
And so it is in fact impacting his health for not talking and connecting.
Expressing
what he feels.
what is going on here. So you're saying from where you sit and from your experience, it is very damaging to keep everything on the inside.
Definitely.
It is. We found as well that there are more women accessing services, and it's not only because they are more willing to talk and to share, but sometimes it's because there are more women who experience some of these issues. Because culturally, because women tend to depend, well, at least in the past, it's changing now, tend to have depended more on men. You found that seasons like Christmas, where they have to go spend and they have to depend on their man for the money in certain situations, you find that they tend to worry more and they tend to have breakdowns more around that time.
So we may be speaking about things like anxiety
Yes.
and depression, possibly,
Depression,
other things that would impact them mentally.
Yes.
Definitely.
So you'd say one of the factors, one of the reasons behind there being more women who seek mental health help is because there are potentially more women who are suffering.
Who are affected,
who are affected,
Yes.
That's a better word to use.
Mm-hmm.
So how do we go about getting more men to speak about their problems? That's the question now.
Well, one of the realities that we have to confront is that men do not have the kind of a friendship that you see women have, the kind of a relational bonding. And so I think part of the work that we need to do is to create the kind of a safe environment where men could chat. Now, the interesting thing, you find in the bars, in the rum shops, on the street corners, men are bonding and they're talking, but oftentimes the conversation are very surface level. And so, do I feel safe to talk? Would I be judged? Would I be assessed in such a way that you look down on me? And so it's a cultural shift that says to the man, this is a safe place and a safe thing to do, and you would not be looked down. And so it starts at the home, I think, in the whole socialization of men. And I know it's an old adage that big boys don't cry and all that kind of stuff, but we have to start changing the environment.
We start changing the narrative as
Yes,
well,
yes,
because
yes.
when it comes to mental health, there's nothing that, I'm too macho or I'm too manly for that. We've
Correct.
seen the statistics that it directly affects health.
Yes.
So, we need to get that conversation going, from boyhood
Yes,
Yes.
into
definitely.
manhood
Yes.
and have those conversations maybe even earlier.
Yes. So
Definitely.
when this child, the son or the children are being nurtured, things like that can be shared. And you find that in our culture, sometimes parents experience things and you keep it from the children, so they're not aware that these things exist. And when it hits them, then it's like, oh my God, I'm not prepared for this.
It's like a ton of bricks.
It's like a ton of bricks.
Yeah.
So in nurturing them, let them know that challenges will come, but hear what? Even if you fail this time, you can get up and try again.
Exactly. Now you have a talk coming up on Saturday.
On Saturday at the Creative Arts Center, they're partnering with us in San Fernando on Circular Road.
Right.
It's free to the public. And we don't have a lot of space, so we are saying first come, first serve, and we are saying come on down and let's talk. We have Mr. Hanif Benjamin would be there. He's the chairman of the Children's Authority. He would be sharing on trauma, dealing with trauma and coping with trauma in the society. And of course, Bishop Hamilton will be sharing on living in harmony in a hostile environment.
Wow, that's very interesting. Living in harmony in a hostile environment. Are you speaking of like in the home itself or in a neighborhood or a community that may be deemed as one that is an at-risk community or such? Elaborate a little bit.
Well, since social systems are interconnected, interrelated, we're speaking of all of the above.
Okay.
You know, and basically we have no control necessarily of our external environment.
Yes.
So we are trying to empower people to manage self. Because if I can manage self, because most of the conflict issue is based on a power conflict.
Right.
You see? And so if we can manage the self, then we can then define our environment.
All right, and before we close off, we just need to know the time. We know it's at the Creative Arts Center in San Fernando
on Saturday the 12th, and
the
it's
time?
from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m.
10 a.m. to 2 p.m.
Yes.
Don't miss it.
Yeah.
Definitely the conversation needs to continue. Now we take a break to go to the top of the hour for the news with Dion Batiste Clark.